have heard that Hajj, sign up for Hajj has changed really. It's not like before where you have a group of people from Raleigh sign up with the masjid and they all go together. I wish it was that way, but it's not nusuk. And everyone has to sign for Hajj through Nusuk app. And the issue is not signing up with the app, the issue is the process and the procedure of how and miss, depending on your chance at that time of how your computer operates, how their system and network operates as well, whether it accepts or whether it kicks you out. And the frustration is mainly happens when you process and sign up and do everything, and then when it comes to payment, it just does not go through. It goes into an endless loop, and then it kicks you out, and you don't get the package afterwards. So inshallah, we are going to talk about this aspect first, and then we will move to the aspect after getting the package and going, inshallah, for the trip itself, for the journey, whether it's going with Medina, Mecca, or Mecca, Medina, and some of the experiences that some of the Hajjaj. Here we have the brothers, we have our sister here, and also we have, mashallah, sisters over there to share some of the experiences, inshallah, with this. So I'll start with the brothers on a quick reflect, maybe 2 minutes each on your experience with signing up for the package, inshallah. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I started actually 2 years ago, the first time. I started 2 years ago for the first time looking at Hajj, and I was told that the Nusuk started about 3 years ago, so just sign up for the app, and that was the first step. So I registered and filled out the form online, went out there, and was thinking it would be a fairly straightforward process, but unfortunately it wasn't. My application was just sitting at pending, and I was expecting something to happen, and nothing happened. And a friend of mine who also was registering, one day asked him, I was like, hey, what's happening with your Hajj thing? I registered, it's pending, nothing's happened. And he said, oh, it's already over. The registration is over, the packages are sold. And I was like, when did this happen? I started my registration in December, and I'm waiting for my application to be processed. And he says, oh no, did you sign up with any of the groups or trying to give you guidance? And I said, no, I didn't. And he's like, well, I'm sorry, everything's sold out, the visas are over, but you might want to try something. And I was like, okay. So I realized that I was just going into Nusuk, applying, filling out the form, and expecting something to happen. And I never got any notification, never got anything that said anything was wrong. It just says pending, and that was it. So that friend of mine went to Hajj, and he came back and he said, hey, let me give you a link. It's a Telegram group for Dar es Salaam, and there's some other ones for some other operators as well. They're really helpful. So I did. I registered for that Telegram group in the following year, and this year in October I started the process again. And that was just a group of people and an operator that has experience that were helping coordinate. And there are several other groups that do the same thing. Adam Travel does the same thing, and there's several Telegram groups that do that. And that was basically the support group that I got involved with that helped me, that the registration process is not just filling out the form. And Nusuk won't tell you anything if something goes wrong. You are supposed to contact their support to say, hey, my application's stuck, what's wrong with it? And sometimes they'll tell you it's a photograph, it's this, whatever. And then you fix those things and make sure that your application is going through the process when you know other people's applications have been processed. And from there, the process actually starts. And it's a longer process from there that your applications, you have an application that's been approved, and then you are in the process of being able to be, looking at all the packages that are available when the time comes up, when the packages get uploaded. And then you think you want a package, and then it comes sale day, which also moves, and there's no fixed date that it actually starts. You get told, and that's where all the support groups also help, because they tell you, oh, tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, we've been notified it's going to happen. Saudi time, the packages are going to go on sale, and then you go and then you're hoping that you get the package. I think my experience, to sum it up, was that if you're invited to Hajj, that's what I was told. If you're not invited for Hajj, it will happen for you. And if you're not invited for Hajj, it's not going to happen for you, no matter how much you want it to happen. And there were lots of people that went through the process where there's some that have been waiting for years, and there's some that got on last minute, and there's some that registered later and got a package. So there were 3,600 visas, as I was told, and then there's a first round, second round, third round, as visas become available. But US gets about 3,500 visas, and there's thousands and thousands of people from the US registered that will try and buy the same package. So it's who gets in that day that's able to register and be able to buy the package that they wanted to. Sometimes you don't get that package, you get something else, and there's combinations of variables involved that you look at, and you decide based on pricing and proximity to the different to jamarat and stuff that decide the value of the package.
My experience, I kind of made it, this is the first year that I tried, and it worked out from the first year, alhamdulillah. And signing up for the Nusuk app was discovery itself. You go on, as a millennial, I try to, I download the app and expect it to work, but apparently it doesn't go through the app. You have to go on the website. So, I had to go on the website, but after that, it was kind of somewhat self-guided. And then once, there's a lot of, throughout the whole process, there's a lot of uncertainty of, waiting. There's no ETAs at all, don't ever expect any kind of ETA of when things will be accomplished, or but there's people that their profile got approved after 2 weeks, and people waited 2 months. Mine, I signed up in December, and I think wasn't approved until February. So just have to be patient. There's not much that I was able to do about it. I personally was just getting on Reddit and checking out what other people are saying. But yeah, I was just trying to be patient until my profile was approved. And after that, I started looking at the packages. Packages are somewhat confusing when you try to pick one. There's like 6 different scenarios. Premium, luxury, standard, and shifting or non-shifting. You can select which type of, I think are we going to go into details of that? We'll talk about that. But yeah, I tried to sign up I was told, the first day, like on day 1 or X day, the registration will open, and I was in California at the time. I was like, okay, I was running a little late, and I was going to a park, and I was like, I'll go to the park, and I come back, after the park, I'll sign up. Not knowing that the registration is only open for, 2 hours? 2-3 hours? So the first phase, that was phase 1, I couldn't sign up, didn't even have a chance, and nothing. I was just surprised. I came back, everything was already closed. I'm like, nobody told me anything about this. I didn't have a group at the time. And then after that, I started looking up more on Reddit and researching it. I think phase 2, they did not have any openings for the US. I was just waiting for phase 2 to open, and you're always waiting and waiting and waiting, and you're almost always waiting, but never know when things are going to be. And then I waited for phase 3. Phase 3, I tried to log in to purchase that package, but my website wasn't even loading. And so I was given a number by Adam Travel to contact. It felt a little sketchy because anybody who works in IT, you never share your password, the username and password, and your one-time passcode. But I was like, well, it's coming from Adam Travel, so this is the only chance that I get. It's high risk because basically I had $13,000 in that account, so it's like, but I took my chance. Don't tell anybody I did that. Took my chance and contacted a number that went on WhatsApp that was in Egypt, and they did the sign up for me. Again, it wasn't straightforward, they tried to log in, you have to wait maybe 5 minutes to get the code, and then if you wait more than 5 minutes and you don't get the code, you have to try again. It's a whole process. But eventually, alhamdulillah, I was able to sign up, and after that, I was guided through the Adam Travel until the journey started.
So as far as the registration process is concerned, my wife handled most of that, or all of that, all of it. And but as far as the package selection, we went with it was the two of us plus her cousin and his wife. And something to know is that when you go as a group, one, you have to be in agreement on the package that you're selecting. And so we went through all of the packages and kind of ranked and prioritized what was important to us and what was important to the other couple. And, we were prepared to spend more than they were, so some negotiations had to happen. Because you're either all going or you're not. And you also have to preload an e-wallet. And so, as the brother said, if you don't get the package that you wanted, you might have to spend more if you're choosing to go up in package. So we overloaded our e-wallet, and with the expectation that if the one that we wanted sold out, we're going. We thought that it wasn't an option to not go. And on sale day, the website crashed for the first 45 minutes. Meanwhile, people in the Telegram channel are mentioning that they were able to buy theirs, and you're kind of freaking out and wondering what you're doing wrong and why you can't. But alhamdulillah, after 45 minutes, my wife was able to log in and able to buy for all of us, so alhamdulillah.
Jazakumullahu khairan. So this is a summary on the process. Inshallah, when we go to the sisters, we'll talk about something else. So a summary of the process, you can always now gain or at least get the idea that the process is not easy and it's not very obvious and it's not very easy to handle. You can't do things on your own even if you're the best computer savvy or IT savvy. It's not about you being well versed in IT or computer. It's all about you following up with the group. So this is what you get. So signing up on your own is not a good idea at all. So you have to be within a group, within a travel agency, whether it's Darussalam or Adam Travel or others, because those travel companies provide you the group support. Okay, you log in, you get the notification, okay, wave 1's coming tomorrow afternoon, wave 2 is coming in the middle of the night, wave 3, so you know you have some heads up. And then it's all about, as our dear brother said, it's all about invitation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it goes through or not. But at least you're aware of the process. So now that we kind of understood that you have to be, you must be within a group so they can direct you and guide you through it. Don't do it on your own. The question I have, inshallah, for the sisters is now that you got in, what was your experience in selecting the package? Were you able to select the package that you're looking for? If that was the case, how easy it was? If it was not the case, did you just go to any other package that was available, or you did something else? Inshallah, this would teach. Now you're in, how do I get on a package? How do I select a package? Bismillah.
Alaikum. Okay. First of all, I'm his wife, so if there's a little bit of overlap, that's why. But so we were going with another couple, with my cousin and his wife, and we were all registered as a family, so we had to align. So we ranked 75 combinations of packages so that we would not be in disagreement. We didn't want any source of like stress or panic during the moment. But at the end of the day, like, and truly, this has been like the philosophy the whole time. At least for Hussein and I, we were willing to take any package. Like, at the end of the day, our intention was to go. If it was the most difficult package with all of the walking and the heat and the difficulty, we would have gone. And if it was the very max of our budget, we would have gone no matter what. And subhanAllah, actually, it wasn't just 45 minutes. We got in about an hour and a half into the process because we couldn't log in and then the code wasn't working. And we had the most configured package. So they tell you ahead of time how many people have the package in their cart. And ours was 300%. So 3 times the number of people who could go. So surely it would have been gone. And subhanAllah, an hour and a half in, we got our first choice package regardless. And I truly believe, like in my heart of hearts, that happened because we truly would not have cared. We would have taken anything. And so the only contingency I'll add is we were limiting to Darussalam and Adam Travel because we cared about the guide and who was carrying us through the journey so that we could feel confident in that, but that's all that mattered. And so I guess what I would say is, as long as like you don't have some kind of physical hardship or something like that, I think if you keep your options open, then Allah makes it easy.
Jazakallah khair. Yusuf, if you can pass on the mic to the sisters, they're all, mashallah, the Hajjaj over there, if they want to experience. So, something to take on, this is extremely powerful. You just heard our sisters say that don't depend on your human perception that the package she mentioned to you, that the package they were aiming for was 300%, meaning that there were many people signed up for that package and had their configuration into that package, meaning that as a human being, you're gonna just sit back and say, why would I waste my time? Like so many people ahead of me. But this is where you believe, listen, if it's meant for me, it's gonna come. And here you have a life example that they got what they wanted, but because they had the beautiful intention, whether we're gonna get what we want or not, we're moving on. We're going to Hajj if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us. So that gives you the beauty meaning of invitation. So once we have sincerity into the fact that we are gonna go, inshallah, Allah will open ways. And now remember, if it does not, no matter what you did, it does not open, you still have the intention and you will be rewarded for that pure, sincere intention. So may Allah forbid, but if the time comes and someone dies and we depart this life, you die on good terms with absolute sincere, not only sincere intention, but sincere attempt that you tried so hard and you did everything in your capacity and it still did not go through. Khalas, alhamdulillah. So that's something that we need to believe in. Never give up, never say, well, this is way too much, so many people ahead of me. It is all about Allah's accepting your attempt, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallah feekum. Yes, nothing from the sisters over there. Okay, inshallah. So we're going to move now. So we talked about the first step, which is the overall concept of signing up with Nusuk. Then we talked about the next step after you get into Nusuk, the process of selecting your package. And then the process if you are not able to select your package. So now that we have heard about selecting a package, we would like to see any of you that was not able to get the package that they were looking for. And what did you do? Did you end up just picking any package or did you do something else? So for our brothers and sisters to know what to do if this situation would arise for them in the future, inshallah.
They'll release all the packages beforehand. So before it goes live, you'll be able to go in, click a package, and you can look at a double, a triple, or a quad room, right? So double is going to be the most expensive. Quad, which is 4 through the room, would be the most affordable of that package. You can also look at the flight combinations, and depending on where you fly out of. So like for one pack, like 10 of those combinations could have just been one package. But you have time to explore all that. I think it's very important to like spend some time getting familiar with them, because once you go in, there's no, I mean, you're lucky if the page even loads. So it's not the time to learn about packages at that point. So we built a spreadsheet and we just put everything in there with what was in the website. And the travel agencies are also helpful. Like they actually built tools that allowed you to look at all the combinations and pull them up kind of side by side. So the agencies are really supportive. Even before you purchase with any of them, they're also helpful.
Yeah, inshallah. So having your homework ahead of time is very important so you don't stress out. Because if you don't do your homework and you just jump into the application and you just try to get in, it's not going to be a pleasant experience, inshallah. Yes, sister, you had a question.
So each agency has they have like volunteers who are partial guides, and then they have the imams with them, and they'll usually tell you at some point in the process, they'll let you know. So like Dar es Salaam released all the names of their imams, and as soon as they knew, they released all the packages they're with. And like Adam Travel did the same, so like we knew which package Imam Dahanoun was going to be with early on because Adam Travel released that. So they'll let you know which imams. And if they know the package, they'll let you know that too. But generally, like, you'll have access to different people while you're there. So there's good kind of like connection between the different groups within a certain guide, like Dar es Salaam or Adam Travel, and the imams within that group.
Okay, excellent. Inshallah, if yes, bismillah. So the role of the agency is honestly nothing but facilitation. That's all. Exactly like this, giving you heads up, by the way, expect a registration coming up tomorrow after, like let's say at 1 o'clock. Then once you get in, it's going to be all guidance, okay, workshops, training, and then when you go there, they have also a side group with the local group to receive you and to accommodate you. So you don't have to, so there is no extra fees with the agency or anything. The packages are exactly the same price, but the signing up is more signing up with the group, yes, because that's the only way you can communicate with them. Let's say our example here in the masjid. So we had advertisement on the website. People signed up with their emails, right? That they're interested, that's all. So once you get the emails, we start communicating. Okay, so our agency would be Adam Travel. Here is the, we're gonna have, before the waves of registration, we're gonna have some workshops to walk you through all this, to get you ahead of the game. Okay, this is what you expect, this is what you do. So it's nothing but guidance and facilitations. Okay, so now we're gonna go to, once we go to the next step, and then we will go to the actual journey itself, like after the selection. If any of the brothers, were you able to get the package that you were actually aiming for? All of you. So anyone had the experience where they were not able to get the package they want and they just had to select any other package? From the sisters, the brothers that went to Hajj this year. So you were able all to get the package that you were looking for? Yes. So it's the same package, but you were not able to get the double. Okay. But at least you got the package that you were looking for. Alhamdulillah. So inshallah now we will move to get some of the experience on. Now that you got the process, you got in, you registered, you were able to get in, and you were able to get the package, and khalas, now alhamdulillah you're secured, right? Now it's the process of you learning about the Hajj rituals, logistics, all that ahead of time, which is something, alhamdulillah, that you just follow. The question now is, when the time comes after preparation and the travel. So let's talk about an experience of Medina first, and then going to do Umrah and Hajj second in Mecca. And then after we'll talk about Mecca first, and then going back to Medina after Hajj rituals have finished. So from the brothers who are next to me, have any one of you did Medina first? Medina, all of you Medina first. Anyone did Mecca first? No one did Mecca first? Subhanallah, mashallah. All Medina. Okay, so let's talk about Medina, and I'll walk you through Mecca experience, inshallah.
Yeah, we did Medina first, and unfortunately, there's positives and negatives. I was told my brother did Hajj last year, and he said, hey, the advantage of Medina first is that when you come in, Medina is not as busy, and then you do your Hajj, and then you leave from there while everyone goes to Medina. So you miss out on some of the rush in Medina. And from a timing perspective as well, I think it was like 14 days for doing the Medina first. And so the disadvantage was that we got very little time in Medina. And I think it said that we were supposed to be there for 3 days, but we actually were there a day and a half to 2 days. From arriving, we arrived at 7 p.m. By the time the international flight arrived into Jeddah, or Riyadh, Riyadh, and then to Medina. And when we got into Medina, by the time we got to the hotel, I think it was like 9 p.m. We had our Roda appointments that evening, and then we had one full day, and then the next morning we were leaving for our Umrah and to Medina, to Mecca. So that was the disadvantage, where you want to be at peace in Medina, you were just rushed out of, that felt like we were rushed out of Medina. We didn't get enough time in Medina. Because you felt the calm of Medina when you were there, but you don't want to leave when you were saying, hey, tomorrow morning, be ready, we're going to Mecca.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Medina first as well, and Medina is beautiful. Everybody loves it, and it's very peaceful. Alhamdulillah, we were able to pray every time in the masjid. That was very nice. Very much enjoyed it. I think I had probably a few more, probably couple days more. But it was nice. I really liked it. One thing I would recommend if you're going between Medina and Mecca for the transportation, if you can take the train, definitely take the train. Our bus ride, it's on a normal day, you know, it would be 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, but we were in the bus for about 13 hours that day. So I definitely recommend take the train if you get a chance. But the train, you do have, it's either part of your package, whatever package you select. But if it's not part of your package, we had people in our group that took the train on their own, but they registered for the train maybe a month or two in advance. So you have to register for it way in advance to avoid that. But yeah, it's just like I said, yeah, it's a lot of, you gotta have a lot of patience. You always don't know what's kind of, you know, what's coming. You can never say, oh, you know, like the trip is usually 4 hours. For us, it lasted 13 hours. So yeah, if you get that option, definitely use the train.
Ours was 7 hours, and I thought that was bad. But yeah, I agree with if you can take the train, take the train. We actually thought about spending the night in Jeddah and then taking the train to Medina the next day, but we were afraid to not travel with our group. But looking back, there's really nothing to fear, I guess. I enjoyed the 3 days in Medina. We were able, our group took a tour of Mount Uhud and got to drive by Masjid Qiblatain, and we got to pray in Masjid Qubba. And then there was also a tour of Masjid al-Nabawi. So those were nice experiences before you leave to Mecca. Yeah, I don't really have much more to add.
Okay, inshallah. And now, the experience of Mecca first, and the difference, of course. Everything has its pros and cons. So you heard from the brothers the experience of Medina, no question about it. If you would to have the chance, always go to Medina first. It's a good settlement. You get oriented, especially if it's the first time for you. You get oriented with the culture. You get relaxed. You're not really stressed out immediately to go to do Umrah, right? So you're relaxed. You get to know the culture, how to navigate through the masjid, and it's just a great way to pave you through, ready for your Umrah and Hajj. The disadvantage of Mecca first is the rush, is that you're coming from a long itinerary, a long travel from the US. Several stops, layovers, you're so tired, and here you arrive to Mecca extremely exhausted, and you want to go and do Umrah. And a lot of people find it very overwhelming. So you might not enjoy Umrah exactly if you had done Medina first. The advantage that I see, Allahu A'lam, the only advantage that I do see in Mecca first is that when you go to Mecca first, you actually go to Mecca before it gets extremely crowded. So you end up actually having much more chances to access inside the masjid. So you can see the Kaaba and you can be around it. Once that delay happens and people start coming, every day makes a difference. Every day getting closer to the Hajj makes a difference, and becomes extremely crowded, where you end up not being able to actually access the masjid and go to the haram and see the Kaaba. So that's maybe the only disadvantage over going to Medina first. So now, inshallah, and for the sake of time now, my questions will be, each one of you will just answer that question, so not necessarily the three of you. But now we'll start with the sisters. So the next now that you went to Medina first, and then you had the right to go to Mecca, and then you've performed, alhamdulillah, your Umrah, and you settled. Now we want to go into the Hajj process itself. Is that about explaining to the audience, inshallah, to our brothers and sisters, what is shifting and non-shifting? What does that mean? What's the advantage of having your rooms during the Masha'ir of Hajj? Did you actually have the rooms during Hajj days, or you did not? Were you sent to Aziziyah, or you actually stayed in Mecca and then you went to Mina, Arafah, Muzdalifah, and you came back? Just a little bit on the shifting, non-shifting experience, so when they sign up next year or actually read about it, they understand what shifting and non-shifting means, inshallah. Bismillah.
So non-shifting basically means where you originally stay in Mecca is where you stay, like you keep that room for the entire time of the manasik. So whether when you go to Mina, Arafah, Muzdalifah, like you still have your hotel in Mecca, or I guess Aziziyah if you're staying in Aziziyah the whole time. Shifting is typically when you stay in Mecca for a couple of days at the beginning, like when you're doing your Umrah, but then when you go to Mina, your room also shifts to Aziziyah. So you no longer have your room in Mecca during the time you're in Mina, Arafat and Muzdalifah. So we had a non-shifting package, so we had our hotel in Mecca the entire time. I think we probably, well, I think, so from my perspective, the benefit was that whenever you do go back to Mecca, you have somewhere to stay that's close to the Haram, which is nice. You have access for all your prayers that you want to pray there and whatnot. Now, it really depends how you do it, because when you go to Mina, you spend one day in Mina, then you go to Arafah and Muzdalifah that night, and then you have the next 3 days in Mina. I think the requirement is that you spend half the night in Mina. So some people opt to go back. We really, in between Mina, so you could go to Mecca and then come back to Mina, go to Mecca and come back to Mina. We only really chose to go for our Tawaf Ifada, and then we just spent the time in Mina until we were done, went to Mecca until we flew out. So I wouldn't say we utilized the room much, probably only once during that time. But the benefit was that one time, and also at the very end, once we had finished everything except for the final tawaf on our way out, just being close enough to pray without a long walk. I have heard from people that had a shifting package that it's nice because when you're in Mina, Aziziyah is close. So if you want to go to the hotel or to your hotel in Aziziyah, and you've shifted there, then it's a much closer distance to you in Mina than Mecca would be. And then we did have family members of our group who stayed in Aziziyah, and I think for them it was like a 25-minute walk to pray at Haram in Mecca and back. So that's actually shorter than I've heard before, so that's probably not so bad. But yeah, we just didn't want to, we wanted to have our stuff and leave it there and not think about it and then just come back to it at the end, so that's what we opted for.
So that's just a quick reflection on shifting and non-shifting. So again, having your room during Hajj days has its definitely advantages. However, of course, it comes with a price. When you have your room available during the Hajj manasik, it's a more expensive package than you staying in Aziziyah. Staying in Aziziyah and not accessing Mecca, no question about it, would be convenient between you going back and forth. However, a lot of people say this is my life journey and I want to spend time in Mecca where I want to have each salah to be accounted with 100,000 salat. So they just feel that they're disconnected to stay in Aziziyah, and they really want to take advantage of the fact that they're taking, especially if they have paid for a package that gives them the rooms. Now, My question to, inshallah ta'ala, the brothers, just one, and because I want to ask more questions. Now, those who have utilized the rooms, now that we know the advantage of being in Aziziyah, that you're close to the Jamarat. You're very close to the Jamarat, so you can walk. If it's extremely hot, you can actually go to your room in Aziziyah, relax, and then walk to your tent. The only thing is that you have to be heavily dependent on walking, because there is really no transportation between the Jamarat and Aziziyah and Aziz and Jamarat, because they're very close to each other. It doesn't make sense for you to take transportation. So you have to heavily depend on walking. It's not a lot of walk, but of course for us coming from the US, we're extremely spoiled. So we're not really ready to take the heat. And so you have to be really ready to be always hydrated and to drink a lot of water. So you want to also be oriented with the situation and the environment that you are in. Now let's talk about the rooms, so people understand, is it really worth it to pay money to have your room during the manasik or not? So among the three of you, who have utilized the room during Hajj days? Like, rooms in Mecca. All in Aziziyah, right? So you only, Hussein did it just the day of Eid. So the day of Eid, when you finish Tawaf al-Ifada and the Sa'i? Oh, you did it on Saturday. Okay. طيب. Now, the question that I would go to after now, so now we understand shifting and non-shifting and the advantages of this and this. Now, while we are doing the manasik and going to Mina, Arafah, Musdalifah, there is a package that actually provides trains between Mina, take you to Arafah, from Arafah to Musdalifah, from Musdalifah back to Mina, so you can throw the Jamarat. So you have trains, and you have packages that do not provide trains. So you either have buses, you were promised to have buses, or you ended up walking. So I'd like to understand the experience of, let's talk about, so I'll talk about how many of you did trains? You did trains? Sisters, trains? How was your experience with trains? All good? MashaAllah. How long was the wait to get on the train? La, 5 minutes. This is way too exaggeration. I wish I was with you then. 5 minutes. So the trains are really great experience, but the wait to get to the trains is the challenging part. So trains are definitely good experience. Let's talk about buses. Did you brothers do buses? Walked. So a quick reflection on walking, inshallah.
We were fairly close to Jamarat, so our walk was about 25 minutes to Jamarat and back. On the days that the first day of Jamarat, it was because they block off all the roads. Getting there was not that difficult, but coming back took several hours because they made you walk all the way around. And between our camp and the Nasiks, the Arafat and stuff, they transported us in buses.
So Munir, I would like you to explain I'm assuming you had Majar al-Kabsh, right, in Jamarat? Oh, buildings. So in Aziziyah? Close to the Jamarat. Okay, so Munir, if you can explain, there is something that you will always hear about Mina camp called Majar al-Kabsh and Mina camp called al-Mu'aysam. So this is going to be names that you're going to memorize. So Munir, which camp you were in, and what's the difference between the two camps?
I was in the Mu'aysam camp, and the difference between the two is how close they are to the Jamarat. The Mu'aysam camp is further than the Jamarat. Compared to Majar al-Kabsh. I'm not sure what's the difference in the distance time because I haven't tried the.
So the difference is long. So from Mu'aysam camp to the Jamarat is 1 hour walk. From the Majar al-Kabsh to the Jamarat is about 20 minutes walk. So there is a big difference, especially in the heat. That's a major difference. And also the camps are different. So the Majar al-Kabsh camp is upgraded. The Mu'aysam one is not as furnished, is not as ready, is not as accommodating when it comes to the bathrooms and facilities. So Majar al-Kabsh is more, but it's more expensive, of course. So that's the difference between timing and between the distance, inshallah ta'ala. So now we're gonna, inshallah, have a last question and then ask if you have any questions in the audience. Inshallah, on your last, so after you finished Hajj and that you had your rooms, just your experience in going back to Mecca and the Tawaf al-Wada' experience, and also the departure, because a lot of people get really stressed out about hearing horror stories about their departure. And the reason why is that everybody travels empty and light when they go, but they buy a lot of gifts and they buy valuable things. So they get extremely stressed out about their luggages. So departure always a stress out. Not only that, but also the international flight that you don't want to miss out. You want to be on time and you don't want to miss your domestic flight. So it's very stressful because khalas, you're done and you're ready to go home and to see your loved ones, and you don't want to miss on any of the itinerary. So people come very anxious. They want to make sure they. So I just want to know, to hear a little bit the experience you shared with those. Once talk about Tawaf al-Wada', last settlement in Mecca, and then the departure experience.
For Tawaf Wada', we were in, our group recommended that we do it 12 hours before our flight. Now it's not 12 hours before we leave, right? It ended up being like 5 hours before we left, but it was 12 hours before our flight. It was my favorite Tawaf. I don't know what it was, but when we did our Umrah in the very beginning, it wasn't so busy, but it was hectic, right? Like, you know, there's a little bit of pushing, a little bit of shoving. When we did Tawaf Wada', we did it on the ground floor, and it was packed, but everybody was just so calm. Like nobody was pushing. If somebody accidentally bumped into you, it was like very apologetic, very kind. I feel like everybody was like in the Hajj mode. They had just completed their Hajj, so it was a nice feeling. That was one of my favorite moments. And subhanAllah, somehow we were able to touch the Kaaba, so that was nice. As far as leaving, so first of all, we arrived for Hajj with everything we absolutely needed on our backs, because I was terrified about losing our luggage, so we were carrying a lot on our backs. And then we each brought one checked bag, no carry-ons other than our backpack, and we each brought a duffel inside of our luggage, and my cousin and his wife did the same. We did not even plan to do a lot of shopping, and I didn't spend a lot of time shopping. We came back with all 4 bags, the 2 that we had packed and the 2 duffels. I will say a lot of the duffel was our backpack, because we weren't as worried about it on our way out, so we took it off our backs. I would say that pack light, but bring something that you can pack on the way back, just in case you find yourself coming back with a lot of things. And then our flight out was at 2 a.m., but our bus left to the airport at 7 p.m., and that was just right. So it's good to head out early. Somehow all of the bus rides are 3 times as long as the GPS will tell you they are, so it's good to get out early. But I think that having the extra bags left us a little bit more stress-free, so I would recommend that just in case.
Did you travel out of the new airport in Jeddah?
Did we?
Like the fancy airport?
I think so. Yeah. We left from.
Yeah, it's like, is it the international look airport? Yeah, because the old airport is very small, and we used to have a lot of difficulties on. Right now, I would say it's everybody will just go out of the new airport. Alhamdulillah, the new airport is a major blessing, where you really just go in and experience the same U.S. experience, right? Signs, bulletin boards, people that you can ask, counters, and regular check-ins, and you have sections for each airline. So it's that experience you have. Whereas in the past we used to access something called Al-Hujjaj Airport. It's an airport for Hujjaj, no signs, nothing. And you had just to depend on asking people around of which gate that you need to go to and check in. And it's very crowded, very chaotic. So inshallah ta'ala, we can inshallah ask from the audience if you have questions. Bismillah. So inshallah, for the sake of time, to limit your answer to 1 minute, something really great that you had and something maybe less greater or not as great.
I think it was to start off with expectation, why you were going to Hajj in the first place, what made you feel like you needed to go to Hajj, and the desire. One of the biggest things I think for me was my wife reminding me from the start, saying, hey, leave all your expectations behind at home before you go off. So have a very positive, anything negative of nusuk and everything else, the experience that we've gotten to that point, leave it behind, have an open mind. And I think that made all the difference. When we got there, I can tell you, those 14 days were the most incredible days of my life. I have nothing, not one negative experience, because mentally my heart was that I am so fortunate to be here and blessed that my dreams have come true and that Allah has answered everything why I wanted to go there. So my wish was, I wanted to thank Allah for everything that I have in this world, because I've been blessed in every way, and my prayers were already answered before I entered the holy city. And so all negativity of any sort I didn't feel anything. There was not a negative experience that I had till the day that I came back, and me and my wife still talk about when are we going back again.
Definitely, I mean, my favorite part was, of course, the spirituality, saying number one. And after that is the friendship, the community, the sense of community that you feel there, everybody helping each other out. I've lost a lot of safety pins, and everybody would give it to me, or somebody lost their whole bag of medications, and people got together and they got all the medication that this person needed. Mashallah, it's such a beautiful to see that kind of community, and I wish I see that every day, but alhamdulillah. Something negative, I'm not sure I would say it's negative, but there's a lot of challenges. Just have a lot of patience, and Allah's there with you. It's just taking care of you. There's a lot of uncertainty, but Allah's with you, so you'll be fine.
easier than I was expecting. I heard a lot of horror stories as well, and I thought it was going to be super terrifying and very difficult, but Allah made it easy. I was sleeping like 2 hours a night and still had energy like I slept the entire night. It's amazing and indescribable, because you sleep here in the US for 8-9 hours and you still don't have any energy. And then the most impactful moment was probably Arafah, the day of Arafah. I wrote down pages of dua, and I thought, you're there from Fajr until Maghrib, essentially, and I thought that was a lot of time, and I'm gonna have to probably cycle through my dua a second time, or maybe a third time. I was running out of time, kind of surprised at that. And as far as the negative experience was the second Jamarat. That was something, I'll say, start doing push-ups now. It'll serve you well.
Okay, we'll end with the sister, with your most profound experience, inshallah.
I think it's very similar to what you're hearing over there. Like, we were prepared for hardship, and truly, truly, you don't feel it. It doesn't matter. Like, I think the resounding feeling I felt from the moment I got there to the moment I left was very humbled. Like, we are not perfect, and if we lined up to go to Hajj based on who was most deserving from the way we judge things, I mean, I would probably not expect myself to be at the front of the list, and I just felt very lucky and very fortunate and very humbled to be there. I felt the closest to Allah I've ever felt in my life, and I would, if you told me that I could go back every year, but I would have to walk 10 miles a day, I would go happily every single year. So truly you don't feel it, and I mean that genuinely. Like, it doesn't even matter. I don't even remember the negatives. They don't stick out.
MashaAllah, Jazakumullah khairan. I really want to thank my dear brothers and my dear sisters who have really, despite their busy schedule, signed up to come and share their experiences with you, so you can plan, inshallah, and you will be rewarded for those who will plan, inshallah ta'ala, to go to Hajj next year. May Allah reward you, and may Allah accept your Hajj as a Hajj Mabrur, and allow you to visit the house again, inshallah, very soon, whether with Umrah or Hajj, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته جزاكم الله خيرا.
الله أكبر الله أكبر